Firstly, welcome everyone, and I'm Mojito, a learning experience designer. Today marks my 8th year, exactly 8 years in this university. Quite a good coincidence. I've been an education technologist for 7 years before I started as a learning experience designer last year in November. And this is one of the things that drives my interest in this university is how do people use technology, not just for themselves, but in higher education, and how do we designers integrate this technology for a better learning experience. So this is the outline of my presentation, and I won't talk too much of the background because some did a good job in giving background on this project. So I'll just briefly touch on certain things. Is that this is based on the EDUCAUSE Center for Academic Research Student and Faculty project. There'll be references at the end, so you could actually visit this. They have an annual study that they undertake, and they've been doing it for over a decade. And they show trends in how students access to technology, their use of it, and their perceptions, whether they find it important or how much they use it in their courses. So we wanted to know what our students' technology experiences were. There was no study that we could refer to that could tell us what our USP students, what were their experiences when it comes to technology and consequently their learning experience. So our methodology is a pretty simple one. We just adapted a survey, developed it on Moodle. We had prizes as an incentive for students, and then we disseminated this widely in the university using the channels that were available to us. And the methods that we're going to use for this project is quantitative and qualitative. This presentation focuses on the first view on the data that we have captured, so it's quantitative. The qualitative part is something that we will publish later at the end of the semester. Okay, so I'll jump straight to the results, because that's what everyone is waiting for. And let's look at demographics. About 1,500 responses, 51% were female, majority full-time students, and majority live off campus. We have 44% first person in the immediate family that attend university. The study levels, most of our participants were in the first or second year of their study. Right? So it's quite a good demographic to be looking at, is what our first year and second year students are experiencing, and which campuses did we get responses from. As usual, Lodala stands out at 70%, and then we had responses from Honiara, Imeles, and some of the other campuses. A bit low, but at least it's some sort of feedback that we get from the other campuses in the region. And one of the reasons why we used Moodle was that we could reach these campuses. Oh, the enrollment status, most of our students, the respondents were full-time. They were sponsored students. We did have quite a few part-time students as well, and they were either sponsored or private. So the next thing we look at is device ownership, usage, and importance. I own a device, how do I use it in my academic work? Is it important? So ownership. We asked them, we gave them a list of devices. Do you own any of these devices? You will see two huge peaks in the graph, and that's laptop and smartphones. and you have tablets at 28.8%. Now, an interesting stat is that 59% of respondents own both a laptop and a smartphone. So that's the most common combination of devices. We also have students owning laptops, smartphones, smartphone and tablets, but the highest among them is laptop and smartphones. So we asked students, okay, to what extent have you used each device for your academic work? And the scale was did not use at all to use for all my courses. And the results, followed the same sense of ownership. Those who owned a laptop and smartphone, you can see there's most. So if you looked at used for most or all, laptops come out at 78.1%, tablets at 19.5%, smartphones at 55.9%. So that's used for most or all courses. So again, even with the ownership, smartphones and laptops are popular in terms of usage. How important is each device to your academic success? And it goes from not all important to extremely important. And once again, smartphones and laptops are showing high levels of importance, but tablets also is doing a little bit better when it comes to importance, with 38.3%. Now, it's obvious that if you own a device and if that's the only device that you have, that you would find that device very important and you would use it for your academic work. But we also know that there are limitations in devices. So smartphones, the question would beg is, what do we actually do with smartphones? Do we access Moodle or we attempt activities with our smartphones, or do we use tablets and laptops mostly for those kind of things? So that's something that this project will look further into later on. The other thing is network satisfaction and usage. So you can have the device, but if we don't have the infrastructure to support students' use, then it would become an impediment to their technology experience. So the question was, so how many devices do you typically connect to campus Wi-Fi? And one and two seems to be the most common. We have a little bit that more than two. And then if you look at the left, I don't visit campus, and none, there's a slight percentage of those who do not visit campus, and none, they don't connect any device to the, so you can say that most students, for those students, they could be accessing desktop in the labs. So we asked about Wi-Fi network. What was your experience with Wi-Fi networks? And we looked at things, reliability of access at certain places in the campus, the ease of login, and the network performance. And students responded with the lowest network rating, and this is for good or excellent. The lowest rating was for network performance, it was at 44%. Reliability of access in classrooms and housing or student accommodation was at 49%. Ease of login was slightly above 50%. And then the campus libraries seem to have a better rating, with 61% saying it's good or excellent. So I tried to compare this with US institutions when they did the ECAR 2016. So that's how we compare with US institutions. They're slightly, their ratings are slightly higher. But the similar trends are followed. Right, so something interesting for us to look at, because one of the things that students turn to is their access to Wi-Fi. And I think that these days when we go to places, we look for free Wi-Fi, try to connect our devices at every instance. So we look at online activities and said, how much time do you spend actively engaged in each of the following online activities? And these were the options: research, social media, streaming video, online gaming, and then the options were from none to more than 8 hours. And we looked at students that spend at least 3 hours engaged in these activities in a typical day. So students say that online research and homework is the highest. And then you have social media at 29%, and you have other things like streaming video, other online activities, and online gaming. Sometimes we like to think that students are mostly on social media. And we might even doubt, are students honest enough to say that they're actually doing the online research homework, or they're mostly on social media? And I know there's some of the questions you'd have in your head, but this is what students are reported in the survey. So we'll take them at their word. The next thing we look at is learning environment and academic experience. What learning environments do our students prefer? So the options were, do you prefer, well, if you have no preference, one that is completely online, one that is mostly but not completely online, one with some online components, and one with no online components. So you can see that students are more, prefer a blended environment, one that has some online components, or mostly online, mostly but not completely online. So if we were to group that and look at online learning, blended learning, and face-to-face, as how EECAR had reported, this is what 68% of our students prefer blending learning environments, whereas face-to-face had 7%, and online learning, so only online learning, is 31%. So it's quite contrary to what we think that students prefer face-to-face. And it's a very interesting. Compare it against the US institutions, it follows the same trend. Right, so 8% for online, 82% for blended learning environments, so slightly, a bit higher than us, and also 11% for face-to-face. So one of the things that we asked is, are students prepared for technology use? When students, and there were 3 things that we looked at for the statement. So when I entered the university, I was adequately prepared to use technology that was needed in my courses. I was better prepared to use basic software, so Microsoft Word and all that. And I wish I had been better prepared to use institutional specific technology. So you're looking at registration, learning management systems, library systems. So a lot, about 2/3 wish that they had been better prepared. So it's something that we need to look at, is that how do we address, there's of course UU100. UU100 runs semester 1, semester 2, but when do students need this for course registration system, learning management system at the first week? And I think there's a gap there that we're not meeting, because UU100 will teach you during the semester and not before the semester. So it's something that we can probably respond to in this year at least. So we asked students, what do you think about your instructors? And in terms of your university experience and with technology, and we asked them, do they have adequate technology skills? And do they use technology in classes? Do they encourage it? And so we took almost all of the instructors and we looked at all those statements, and you could see that it's quite similar across the board, except for one, which is at 51%, and that's the encourage to use your own technology in the classroom, during class. So understand that lectures are very, they're reporting about 50%, so half and half. Some lecturers don't think that you should use technology in class, or this is the perception that students have of their instructors. And the other ones of encouraging use of technology, 62% right at the top there, and then have adequate technology skills for course instruction. We're at 65%. So not too bad, but I believe we can still improve on what students think of our instructors. And then the next thing I wanted to show is that, well, is technology a distraction? So we asked students. So students were saying that, okay, instructors are not letting us use technology in classroom, and then you ask them this question: what's high on distraction? Is social media, 43%. So there's some reason for instructors not to allow the use of devices, because they become a distraction. And students are saying that it is a distraction. The question that we need to ask ourselves is that how do we encourage a culture of learning in classrooms where we use devices to deepen our learning rather than becoming a distraction? And to completely ban it, then you would not be tapping into the possibilities that the technology can help deepen the learning in the classroom. So we ask students, okay, what do you wish your instructors use less or more? And then our scale was from don't know, 1 is less, and 5 is more. And students responded, right, so we looked at 4 and 5 as more. So these are the top 4 that they wish for. And Moodle is there, publisher, electronic resources, lecture capture, and search tools to find references. So these are the things that students like, or they wish that instructors would use them more. Right, so seems lecture capture is quite popular with our students. And less, we looked at the higher ratings for less, 1 and 2. And right at the bottom, you see e-portfolios, which tops that out at 36%. It's not sure why do students want less of Mahara, considering UU 100 is a course that teaches Mahara. They want less of simulations and education games, and social media as a teaching and learning tool, and non-keyboard or non-mouse computer interfaces such as voice, touchscreen, and gesture-based devices. So very interesting things that our students want less of, considering these things are some things that we would expect that students would have a better experience in. Now then we ask them, okay, what's your overall technology experience? On average, 80% of students said they had a good or excellent experience. So then I broke it down by the campuses that had large numbers, Lodala being the largest with 70%. So 82% said, okay, our overall technology experience was good or excellent. But then when you look at countries like Solomon's, Vanuatu, Alafua, and Nuku'alofa campus, it's well below that. And surprisingly, Labasa had 90%. So I haven't, out of all those campuses, I haven't been to Lambasa campus, so I have a sense for what the network is like there and their technology experience. So I'm not sure how Lambasa campus is, but it seems quite indicative of what. But one thing that I got out of this is that our students are content and satisfied with what they have. Despite the challenges that they face in the region, our students will not say that, and then we have to think about where these students come from. what are the experiences that they have. Because if you've never been to Lodala, you will never know the high speed that we have. And if you're in Solomons and you come from a village, or so, then your experience is only limited to where you come from. So that's the comparisons that students can make in terms of experience is quite limited because their experiences is limited. So student technology orientation is we look at the disposition, attitudes, and usage. We'll give them a couple of terms on each side, and we ask them to rate what their disposition, attitude, and usage is. And so this is how the question was structured. We had terms like on the left and on the right, so whether you're reluctant or enthusiast, and then you would select on a 5-point scale where do you fall under. So I took 1 and 2 as sort of the negative side, and the positive side was 4 and 5, and 3 being the neutral. So this is the distribution of how students selected what the disposition is. So the positive, you can see 61%, the blue, that technophobe or technophile. So whether they are fearful or they are very tech-savvy people. So students consider themselves as tech-savvy. But when you looked at reluctant and enthusiast, 56%. So then that's the orange one that you see, is that some of them are not too sure whether they are in the negative or positive, whether they are reluctant or enthusiastic about technology, and that could be because of the experiences that they have, whether they were good experiences or not, and that's where we see in the disposition, this is where on the neutral and negative side is quite a lot. And then we look at attitude. Are you dissatisfied, satisfied, content or not content, and perturbed, pleased, burdensome, beneficial, useless or useful, distraction or enhancement? So we look at, once again, you look at the highest one, which is useless or useful. A lot of our students are saying that they find technology useful. And it's higher on attitude here. In the previous one, we were looking at around 56% to 61%. But in attitude, we're starting at 68 to 81%. So the attitude towards technology is very positive. The next thing is a usage, whether they're never connected, always connected. Is technology peripheral or central? Old media or new media? Is it infrequent, frequent? And usage is also a little bit higher. So the only one that students are a bit unsure of is their disposition. So when we compare the averages ratings for disposition, attitude, and usage, attitude is just slightly higher than usage, and then you have disposition at 3.7. So these are some things that we need to look at. Well, how do we respond to this data? So student engagement. There were statements that were given to students, and these statements, they represented whether this was student engagement, student teacher engagement, or student content engagement. So there's just this list of statements, and it goes, it's quite long, so it doesn't all fit in that screenshot, but this is what we were asking. It's like thinking the role of technology has played. So technology helped me, and then whether engage in learning process, so whether you don't know, right up to strongly disagree to strongly agree. So we look at student-teacher statements, and the lowest amongst them was develop a personal relationship with teachers, but otherwise all the other ones, and the highest was ask my teacher questions. So students find that it's easier to use technology to ask questions, so that's either by email or by forums, or if teachers provide other ways of communication, technology is seen by students as a way to ask teacher questions. Whereas in the face-to-face model, you'd probably wait till class time, to a tutorial. So students found that, okay, I could ask my teacher a question, I could discuss course topics, so perhaps on discussion forums, and understand my teacher's expectations. So this was a higher engagement that students felt that technology has helped them. We look at student statements. What was higher? And it seems now that you can see a trend that developing a personal relationship with other students is low, same as the previous one. But the thing that stands out here is that students are saying that technology has helped them learn something from other students. That's the highest at 79%. Participate in group activities, class project, discuss topics with other students. So technology is helping them collaborate with their peers, amongst all the other ones. But those are things that students feel that technology has helped them with. Now, what about student content? What are the reactions from our students? Technology has helped me. The lowest would be analyze data. And the highest is to keep track of course news or announcement. So students appreciate the fact that they are informed of course news. And it seems that seems to me the most higher rating for is a news or announcement, and then conduct research for class assignments, so using technology to search for articles, websites to help them, and reflect on course materials, readings and videos. So that's how students, the lowest, it seems like, analyze that data. The question we would be asking is like, technology actually has helped us analyze data more in this time than ever. But for students, that's one of their lowest at 77%. So something that we need to see, are we teaching our students how to analyze data with the current technologies that are out there? So conclusion, some of the key findings that students have generally positive orientation towards technology. They own quite a lot of devices. Students use devices extensively and view them as important to their academic success. Just over half of the students reported favorable experiences with campus wireless network. 8 in 10 students, so 80% rate their overall technology experience as good or excellent, and students generally prefer learning environments with some or mostly online components, that's blended learning environments. And probably something that wasn't captured in this presentation is that students are also worried of their privacy. And they're worried about the data that is collected about them. Is it kept securely by the university? So what should we do now? Now that we have this data, what should be our first thing that we need to respond to is improving our services. Wi-Fi stood out as something that is not overly, the experience is just over 50%. We need to relook at orientation programs. There's learning how to learn online, student support guides, maybe orientation week program. And we need to develop strategies on how we will address issues that have been highlighted in this study. And the other thing would be to conduct studies that will look at areas where the experience was less than favorable, whereas tablets or Mahara. Why is this happening? what is happening with tablets that students are not, why it's not popular with students? Are we using tablets in the correct learning environment, or the way it's been given out to students and how they're using it, the type of content that we expect students to engage with using tablets? And then we look at Mahara, and a portfolio system, how are students using this? So these are things that this study should push other groups to look at tablets, look at Mahara, and other things that have been highlighted. And the other thing is for CFL's role is how do we support faculty with technology integrations in their courses that create favorable learning experiences. So these are the things that we could start thinking of, and how we could, during the year, start looking at our own processes and how we want to address issues that have been highlighted. So what next for this project? There's going to be a detailed analysis of the data. This is just the first view of what the data shows. So we'll focus on areas where students are having less than favorable experiences and identify determinants of positive or negative technology experiences. Where is it happening? What is the demographic that are experiencing this? And these are also analysis of open-ended questions. So this will be the qualitative part of the research. And then we look at publications and disseminating a detailed report to the entire university. And then we look to the next iteration of this survey, which we have to consider for the end of this year. So that's it from me. Then this is some of the references that I can also share with everyone later on. And questions. And if you don't have a questions, then there's a question for you to think about. Thank you.